to go, Chris and Dave? Yep.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Welcome to the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting for Tuesday, the 12th of May. Just to note health and safety in the event of an emergency, leaving either through the door that you entered or the door to my left, and meeting outside in the car park next to the St. John's building. We have no apologies. Everybody is present. Nothing to report. I'm taking the members of conflict of interest declarations in regards to today's agenda. Fantastic. We do have recording in place. We have a small issue with our live streaming presently, so we believe that we're not live streaming. However, the recording will be loaded up to the website for public to view, should they so wish. If anybody approaches you and asks about that, we have tried to troubleshoot that. Is there any announced urgent business? Great, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the 17th of March meeting. I did send Graham just a couple of spelling corrections. I'd like to do a page turn for accuracy, please. Page 3, page 4 and 5, pages 6 and 7, pages 8 and 9. Like they're pretty good then. Right, is there anyone of mind to move those as a true and correct record? Thank you, Brett. And a seconder. Thanks, Murray. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstentions? Carried. Any matters arising from those minutes? And again, I'll just do a page turn. Page 3. Page 4, 5, page 6, 7, 8, and 9. I'll maybe just note there, we did discuss the somewhere in those minutes, we did discuss the water harvesting, and you'll be aware that there are water harvesting workshops available to the public this Thursday at I believe it's 3 and 6:30 p.m. in Chambers. Okay. Moving on then to our only decision item today, item 2.1 on page 10, which is the final version of the environmental scan. So if I can invite Kes, and this will be not new to members, as we did look at this in our last meeting, and so what's being presented today is a result of the discussions and adjustments that have been made following our last meeting.
Chair, taking the report and appendix as read, straight into it. This is the final environmental scan 2026, hereafter referred to as SCAN. All recommendations and comments relating to typos, minor content changes, formatting, style and flow have been incorporated. Moving on to page 19. As per the committee's suggestion, to highlight the new whare as an important milestone for the growth of the community. The Canvas Springs soldier block was added to the scan. It explains the historic significance of the site and highlights the efforts of the council. It also serves as a transition between the district summary and the Mana Whenua chapters. The committee asked about long-term projections for age demographics, suggesting that the age group of 65 years and over might decrease in the long term. It's on page 24. The authors of the scan reviewed national population projections 2022 to 2073 by Stats NZ. The long-term projections indicate the proportion of the population aged 65 years and over at a 90% probability of increasing between 21 and 25% in 2048 and between 24 and 32% in 2073. Due to the decreasing accuracy of these projections, an 8% variation in 2073 compared to a 4% variation in 2048, the authors decided that it was not appropriate to address this in the current scan. Nonetheless, a record of this recommendation has been saved within the project files for future authors to consider. The committee asked if the authors had investigated any opportunities for intensification of civil works, specifically technical solutions to reduce costs and expenditure. The authors reviewed the Southwood Spatial Plan, the 2026 National Infrastructure Plan recommendations, an economic assessment on water-sensitive urban design for the Wellington City Council, and a journal article comparing density rates against infrastructure costs across many territorial authorities. From this review, the most compelling evidence suggested that the greatest way to reduce infrastructure costs is a denser population and prioritising lower costs, such as water-sensitive urban design. A question should also be raised if the scan should be addressing policies for free water infrastructure regarding the WISCO and changes to our functions as the District Council. Nonetheless, urban intensification and water-sensitive urban design have been added to the opportunities section under the infrastructure chapter on page 61. The committee also asked if the authors had investigated opportunities for reducing waste, and specific plastic waste entering landfill. The Waste Minimisation Act 2008, as well as two Whanganui District Council documents, the Waste Assessment 2020 and the Waste Management Minimisation Plan 2023 were reviewed. From this review, the absence of the soft plastic recycling scheme was identified as a potential gap in our policies. The scheme allows consumers to collect their soft plastic and deposit them in drop-off bins at selected Woolworths, Warehouse, New World and Pack and Save locations. The greatest challenge for the district is access to these drop-off bins, as the closest is located in Rangiora. As such, advocating for the soft plastic recycling scheme to be available within the district was identified as an opportunity and added to the waste and recycling section on page 63. That concludes all of the recommendations from the committee that will be addressed in the summary.
Thanks for that. That's a very thorough update on the changes that have been made. As I said, this won't come as anything new to councillors who will have received this at March. I've just had a couple of things if I may. Page 18. The very final sentence there where it talks about the secluded beaches that lay between the small coastal segments of Leithfield and Amberley Beach. Should that be Leithfield and Amberley Beaches with a capital B for beach? And then on page 20, under Te Reinga o Kakoura, the very final word, environmental effects, should be effects. Okay. Somewhere in the document, and I have lost it now, there is a word that says however, but it's missing the H, and I just can't find it. I'm sure you can do a research on that one. And then I just had a question around page 24. The section on ageing population, the very final sentence there. So it reads, nearly half of Amberley's population is projected to be pension aged within 2 decades. By 2043, it is estimated that 30% of the population will be aged over 65. That seems to be the the two statements seem to be in conflict with each other. It might just need an additional word in there potentially. And I wonder about the terminology pension age, given that we're not really sure what that age might be moving forward. Thank you. Sorry.
Page 28 is the however.
Thank you. I knew it was somewhere and then I couldn't find where. Councillor.
Thank you through the chair. Nice to see you. It's again in the same ageing population on page 24. I just clarify the readings. Hurunui population steady grows, etc., through to 3.8.1 for New Zealand full stop. We go down to the next part of the sentence. Recent census data shows that 34% of Amberley's residents are 65 or older. That makes it significantly older than New Zealand at 16.5. I'm just querying the math in that, because we've defined it to an area where we're spreading those figures broadly. So to me, if I was looking at that on my spreadsheet, I'd be looking at it as a different calculus as opposed to the national calculus. And has that been reflected in these calculations, or is that just perhaps a slight oversight?
Through the chair. I can't answer that question at the moment, councillor. Valid points to highlight. I'll discuss with the other author and we'll improve some clarity on that to make it clear what statistics we're talking about.
Thank you. It just seems a little confusing. We're doing two types of demographical, social demographics, etc. in the community, one large, one smaller. And if you're mathing them, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Just while we're in that section here, in there where it talks about Amberley has the highest median age. Do we need median rather than median? I suspect we do. Are there any other questions?
No, just comments really.
Thank you.
Just on page 18, it's on a similar note to you, Pauline. Thermal pools and spa, we're naming something, should that be a capital? Maybe? Yeah. And just if I then go over to page 31, we're at the paragraph starting modelling, and it talks about hops, apples, pears and cherries being planted on Okura farms in an attempt to, land use change kind of thing. I just wonder whether we need to stipulate where Okura farms are, just for clarity. We know now, but in a year's time or 2 years' time, that maybe we need to put a geographic location in that sentence. Would that be, yeah? Thank you. And then, these are really slight amendments, but but like Pauline again, on page 33, talks about Amberley Beach, Leafield Beach and Motano. And I'm guessing we're actually talking about Motano Beach there as well. So I just wondered, slight adjustment for that. But thank you for the information. Other than that, on clarity.
Okay, any further comments, questions, clarifications?
I'm just trying to find it again in the GDP. It talks about contributions of farming. Obviously, I was biased, but I don't think it actually addresses the contribution that dairying is making. Because it just lists from, I'm trying to find it.
96 Dairy Farms Act out of that 333.
Yeah, so it says the number of dairy farms.
Can't find it right, but I'll read it.
Page 65. Yeah. The reality is that the dairy industry is 28 million, I think, versus the sheep and beef industry is 14 or something. So it has quite a significant. So it doesn't really picture positive enough input that dairying's having. And we talk about all the other things in it, but it's like quiet. It's very, the whole scan is very quiet on the impact that dairying's got. So
So, Dave, can I just clarify, are you requesting, it to be,
A little bit more financial, just not the number of dairy farms versus the number of sheep and beef. So, you know, got the contribution it has,
thanks, Chris.
Yeah, through the chair. If we're going to do that, then we should also be looking at cash flows and of debt loadings and positives as well. Is that a possibility instead of just looking at the overview? Our GDP isn't always about what's coming in, it's also about what's going out. And so it would also be nice to see, is it possible through New Zealand statistics to get a relevance on the debt carrying across dairy as opposed to beef, lamb, agricultural, wine, etc. Because we do have a lot to see the relevance of our GDP as opposed to a broad stroke. I'm just asking a question through the chair.
sorry to be challenging.
Chair, valid points raised. I should explain the data set. It's from the NBIE model territorial authority, and it groups all agriculture as one data set. Then the following sentence in the second paragraph on page 65 breaks down farm typologies. That is reasonably out of date as well. So as opposed to breaking down how much GDP per farm typology, it gives a gross GDP figure and then tries to explain the composition of agricultural operations in the district.
Anything else to add here?
Through the chair.
Just check if cases.
Just address the councillor's comment. Yes, there could be some merit in looking at more fine grained detail as a snapshot for the scan and trying to break down GDP per farm typology. Yeah.
I think that would give us more information, understanding our community and where the pressures actually lie. Fiscal pressures are massive, and they influence social economics as well as domestics. So that would be great if it's possible. Thank you.
Just on that, the data given here is 2023, which is now 3 years old. And as you say, those figures I would assume have changed considerably over that time. Is that the most up-to-date data we can actually get?
The chair. Yes, Enterprise North Canterbury was contacted to advise us on GDP figures, and they provided an excellent summary and linked us to the most relevant data sets. No expert in economics, and I just trust their advice.
Sorry, just another question. We also have included in here a number of legislative changes, which I guess you've got to take a snapshot at some time and point in time, but obviously with recent events, the legislative changes have changed a lot since this as well, and yeah, I don't know how evolving this is. Do those need to be included, or do we just say this is a snapshot at a certain time that these were relevant?
Which I'll raise myself actually with the local government.
But yeah, I mean, just sorry, comment on that. I mean, a number of these issues are now irrelevant, really, I guess. New changes coming in.
Through the chair, excellent suggestion. I think we should specify a date where clearly, this was the legislative framework at the time. It was late December, we sort of drew the line. So the current RMA reforms late December and all of the national direction updates. Most of that is cited and paraphrased from publications from the Ministry of Environment. So valid suggestion.
Yeah, just a comment to, I guess, back up Chris's opinion really, because we are in a very volatile time, and we can draw a line in the sand today, and actually things are going to be changed by tomorrow. So I mean, I guess we have to understand the context of this environmental scan and truly understand and appreciate the volatility that but actually, you know, the world is in at the moment and how things change. So I think the intent of this document is to give the best information on the data we've got available, but in full knowledge that by tomorrow it may be out of date.
Yeah.
But we just have to have the wisdom to understand that, I guess, you know, because we can't keep always chasing our tail, because we'll never get a perfect document. But I think this is a jolly good, you know, assessment, understanding that it's not, you know, that there is change, and change is always going to happen as legislation changes. It's just the marketplace we're in at the moment. Yeah, comment more than anything. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, Chair, I just picked up Robert Stevenson's presentation that he did to council. And he puts that dairying is 16.6% of regional GDP. Yeah, so there's a whole lot of figures in that, and a minute that. So I suppose the point I'm just relabouring it, it's pretty quiet. It's we spend a lot of time in this area on a lot of things. Am I getting worried?
Yes, if we were to specify that particular figure for dairying, then it might open the door for getting to specify figures for.
All I'm mentioning it is very quiet on dairying in the whole document. So I'm just giving you that figure to say that it's quite significant, and the whole document is very quiet. And we spend a lot of time on a lot of other things in here. That's fine.
So you'd like to see,
don't worry, just move.
you'd like to see a
Final document,
more
because I've
statement.
already raised it in the past and it hasn't changed. So.
I'm sure that the officer has heard your concerns, be able to take those into account. Councillor.
Thank you, through the chair. Economic profile, you've covered over some areas. I made some notes myself. I do apologise for drawing all over your work, but it's something I took in course. I noticed we haven't covered off construction development. We haven't covered transportation, trucking, and the future market. Of course, we've got IT coming on board, the potential of changes in that area. Are we considering them in the future to be drafted into our work?
Chair, I think the greatest challenge is finding good data sets that can break it down, especially for the district.
Yes.
I would welcome any feedback that directs me to a good data set where I can use solid figures and then articulate it within the scan.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm just wondering too, Councillor Hislop's point maybe if the Dairy NZ figures, you know, might be worthwhile reviewing and, you know, see if there is a consideration that a paragraph could consider that, and then it could be referenced in the reference at the back. Has to sort.
I just had a quick look on the LIN's website regarding Mont Now. Keep it name is Mont Now, but on LIN's maps they call it Mont Now Beach. So the Gazette name is Mont Now.
Oh, that's cool. I'm maybe either way. It's just that it refreshed. Yeah, this one.
So I'm perhaps just going to seek some direction in regards to the officer recommendation asked us to consider the recommended amendments into the environmental scan. We've had a few more suggestions. Here's Judith, what do we feel is the appropriate way forward here for this to come back, or probably up to the committee given to you, and you'd like to say it back?
It'll come back in
July. Yeah. Okay. So if I can get a feel from the committee as to whether we require it to come back, or whether we feel that you know we trust in the officer having heard our feedback. So I'm open to your suggestions.
Thank you. Through the chair, I think we need to heed Councillor Hislop's comments from dairy. I'd like to see that drafted into the document before I'd be comfortable to finalise it. I think he's got a point that we need to see to. It is a big portion of our economy, so it needs to be viewed. Just like to suggest that would be about all I would have to say on the matter.
So you'd like to see it come back
Yes.
once those changes have been
Just to ensure that they're incorporated accordingly and everyone's comfortable with the findings, yes.
I mean, I'm relatively comfortable anyway. It's probably sitting on the fence because I think the intent of the document is, but we've got a suggested change, and I think that was incorporated. I'd be relatively comfortable with that.
I'm possibly the same on here. I guess my question is, do we actually have a time frame that this needs to go out, or?
So you want to just sort of a requirement, is it?
No, Madam Chair, we use it as the basis for the long-term plan. I mean, my only concern about bringing it back would be that the report would have come back for the third time, so to get this adopted will have taken nearly 6 months. So that would be my concern, but I guess that's just the cycle of the committee only meeting every couple of months. The other thing we could do to try and speed it up is that the suggested word is circulated to the committee, we get feedback through that process, and then you make that change. But that would be up to Councillor Carthy whether he's happy with that approach. If we'd like the whole thing to come back in July, then that's absolutely fine.
Through the chair, I'm more than happy to take that recommendation. Yeah, more than happy to. Thank you.
So, Graham, if I can maybe just get some advice here on a resolution moving forward, taking that into account potentially. Or if anybody has some words that would.
I'm happy to move that that the draft environmental scan for 2026 is approved today with the consideration of an email paragraph inclusive of dairying on page, whatever page it is.
64.
Yeah.
And the other minor
And then
amendments.
another minor amendment. Yeah. There'll be quite a reason in that, but
I'm happy to second that because I've already forwarded Rob's report where there's there is good information in there where they can verify and fact check in appropriate.
Okay. Graham, did you get those words?
Madam Chair, I've just got that the Strategy and Policy Committee approved the Farm Environmental Scheme, subject to further amendments being circulated to members. The second point is that it can't really approve by email. But I think if you just say subject to further amendments being circulated to members prior.
Just pull them up.
So it's up to Strategy Policy to approve the final environmental scheme 2026. Further amendments circulated to
Minor changes. Theory.
yeah, just that it's under that GDP title. Where is it?
Potentially hear that again, so that we're all sure what we're agreeing with.
Sorry, I didn't catch where the final. So the Strategy and Policy Committee approved the final environmental scheme, subject to minor changes to be incorporated. And so, we specifically want to refer to the dairy changes.
Yeah, because it's only under the GDP, but I can't find that page.
So minor changes are covering everything else.
Yeah.
And
specific things.
Yeah.
are we all comfortable with that?
I just have one last query to the officer, if I may, through the chair. I'm going through the appendixes and we're referring back to the Yinson renewables over page 33. Reading through that, it's about more of our waste concerns and the likes. I'm just curious as to the reference of why the crossover between the Mount Cass wind farm, which is financed and will be managed by Yinson Renewables from Malaysia. I'm just curious how that reflects on page 63. I was a bit confused about that when I read the appendixes referring them back to the document. Maybe I'm misreading something. So the appendixes on page 73, top line, referring back to page 63 as its reference point. Other than that, I've got nothing else to add to it.
I don't think it's page 63, it's point 63 of the text.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
So
The
Page 56.
annotation.
56,
Yeah.
gotcha. That was my confusion because I couldn't quite cross-reference that one, 56.
Yeah, if you look there at the
Sure,
end of
that
the
makes
text.
reference. Thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Sorry to confuse.
Okay, so Graham, sorry, going back to the
This is really councillor is of the data that he's referring to, is that Fonterra only dairy data in that report, or is it all dairy?
No.
It was a Fonterra report, so it's not included non-Fonterra dairy.
Not 100% sure. There's 3 other dairy farms. Not sure about similar. I think we will be able to check.
I think that we can.
We use authority data and stuff.
Yes. I think we can trust officers to have heard that concern. Okay, and let's hear the motion once more, shall we? Just to make sure we know what we're doing.
That the Australian Policy, Strategy and Policy Committee approved the final environmental scheme 2026, subject to the inclusion of the minor changes agreed in the meeting, including a specific reference to the impact of the dairy industry in the district, with the amendments being circulated to members by email.
You happy with that as the mover?
Yeah.
And you happy with that as the second councillor as well? Okay, is there any further question or discussion? Anyone wishing to speak for or against? And with that, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Abstentions? It's carried. Thank you for that huge amount of work, and I know, Murray, you previously looked at these environmental schemes. You said it's actually a document. It's actually really handy as a councillor to have on hand, because it is a really good snapshot of our district. And so we appreciate the huge amount of work that's gone in by yourself and the rest of the team. So thank you so much for that and for presenting it so clearly.
So can I just ask, on the back of that comment, Pauline, it is a really good document, and once we get final version, clean version if you like, it might be nice for all councillors to receive that so they can save it on their file and have it as a reference point, because it is quite, I know our officers use it, but actually it's probably relative for us to have that understanding as well.
Absolutely, and potentially when we do our strategy and policy update at council, I could highlight that for the other councillors.
Yeah, thank you.
Just in response to that, it's up on the website.
Okay.
Version of our website.
Right, okay. That's fine.
Great, fantastic. Thanks for that. Okay, so moving on to discussion items. Item 3.1, the Stronger Hurunui project update, page 75. Joe, welcome. Nice to see you. And straight over to you.
Everyone. It's really nice to be here to be able to give an update on this project that started back early last year. So I'll take the report as read, but I just wanted to highlight a few aspects of the report and with some of the progress so far, illustrate on the screen, share some information with you there too. So, yeah, this project began in February 2025. So it's an umbrella partnership between Together Haranui and Haranui District Council. And essentially what we're trying to achieve was to understand our community, our strengths and our gaps through a number of channels, but with this particular survey focused on wellbeing indicators alongside other information made available through Stats NZ and EduCount. So the project is not a one of a kind. There's other councils doing similar projects and similar initiatives to try and best understand their community needs. The main driver behind this project was about creating a survey that goes out to community to capture a point in time, a pulse, if you like, of the community and how they're sort of feeling and vibing, and what's key in our communities. And the idea is the survey is carried out on a biannual basis so that we can start to measure any changes, we can see any trends, and then from that data we can then identify gaps and look at what we can do to action or advocate in those spaces. So essentially in the report under number 4, you've got goals of the project, but what the project aims to achieve is a data set, so data-driven decision making, identifying opportunities and in turn strengthening communities. And by data-driven opportunities, what we're talking about is having data that informs what we do as officers within council, but also data that can be made available to our communities. So I'll give you an anecdote, an example. As an officer was contacted about getting a sense of, how do I find out about information on particular areas in the district? So a population in Waikari. And as council, we hold a lot of this information and it's often on an electronic bookcase, for want of a better word. So it's how can we actually get that information out to our community? So I'll talk to that in a moment. But from just key milestones within this project, so as I said, it started early last year. The survey was rolled out in December in a number of spaces online, through the libraries, through community groups. We had 253 responses, and the Sarah Wiley Social Research, who was commissioned to carry out the actual survey and the analysis of that, provided a report in January this year to us. A 70-page document, which I'm just showing you all here, with some really good data in there, some insights that we perhaps knew already, and some other insights that were useful. For example, how prepared is our community when it comes to an emergency? How prepared do they feel when it comes to an emergency? What are the financial pressures on households currently looking like? So it gave us some interesting data, but as a project group, and when I refer to the project group, that's within our current community team, we felt that we needed a deeper data set to make some real kind of strong assumptions from the data. So one of our next steps is around how we deepen and grow that data set, and how we, where we identify possible needs and gaps, that we can drill into those and to understand them better. We also felt that this document provides some really good resource and some information for our communities, but a 70-page document isn't overly palatable when you might, just be wanting to grab some information quite quickly. So the first stage, and if I can share screen, I just want to share the first stage of the this is having a moment. Technical term, it's having a moment. Right, if I can share with you. So initially, the early stages, we, in the project team, we identified we wanted to make this information available on our website. So we're literally using the current format, put some information there and popped in the report. What we did is we drew out the main, so the report, the survey was in sort of sections. We brought out the main section, so for example, connection, belonging, posted the survey question and the results. And we did this in, so as you can see in one tab where you can click on and find out the data relate the question that was asked relating to housing and then the results. So this was the first stage. And if you scroll to the bottom of this page, there's the full report is also listed in here. Now, the second part of the project that we were aiming to achieve by the end of this year was actually to create a more interactive dashboard that community could go on and drill down and actually find out, well, housing in Honolulu is fine, but how do I drill down to see the housing responses in Waikari or the housing responses in Cheviot? So we had started to talk with a funder about how we might fund this. And in that process, we had some conversations with our GIS officer here at council who said, that's really easy, we can do that for you. So I will now share with you essentially what we created. So very quickly, the GIS officer was able to download the data that we had from the survey, also download the data from the census, pulling it across from EduCount, which is the schools-based system, to create this landing page. Now this is smaller than you will see it. Obviously you'd see the full screen, but this is the back end of it. But essentially you can click into the census information. It gives you a snapshot of the district. And then I'm just going to make this bigger actually. So there's so many things on my screen here. Apologies for my technological challenge here. So along the edge here, you can see you can put in, say, Amberley, for example, and then it will collate that data that you see on the left to represent Amberley. So bring it down slightly so you can see. And then you can, as I say, you can drill down to whichever settlements you want to see. So if anyone has one we particularly want to look at, we can. Otherwise, I'll just pull Culverden, and it then, as you can see, the map then takes you to Culverden and it brings up updates the statistics here. So we can see the age, demographic, various census information. Clicking along the top tabs here, you've got household data, so you can start to see, you know, occupancies, etc. And that's all, as I say, census data that's pulled down. It's very easy. That information is publicly accessible, so we can pull that really easily into the system. And then if I bring up our students, this, for example, is the EduCount information. So you could search by school and see the demographics of that school. And then moving along, and this is where our project part comes in, is we can then drill down and share the survey information. So you can then see the answers to the questions. Again, you can select the area in which you want to drill that information. So the potential that this dashboard has is we can add other data sets to it. So for example, our age-friendly survey, our welcoming community survey, our youth takeover survey that we collate, resident survey, we can pull that so it's all in one space. And the reason for adding those other data sets is that for community to access information they might find useful, we want to be able to make that at their fingertips, that they can access that. So from our perspective in council, this is this data set enables us to inform what we're doing, but the second aspect of that is it's about making it available to community. So if someone's coming into the community and they want to start a business, a cafe in Cheviot, they can drill in and quickly find information on Cheviot that may be useful to them. So that's a key part of the project, which we're really excited has happened a lot quicker than we had originally anticipated, and we can grow that. And our next phase on this particular part of the project is we'd like to take it out to our community committees and actually find out from them what data they would like to see on there from our survey, because we've selected 6 or 7 key questions and shared that information on this structure. But we would like to know what would be useful for you if you're a community group applying for funding, what kind of information might you want? If you're a sports group, for example, what information might be useful to you? And essentially it's about self-service information to our community that can access some of this info. So that's the next phase of the dashboard development. In terms of the main project as well, we're looking at how we deepen the engagement and identifying what gaps there might be from that data set that then will inform on that as well. So that's where we're at this kind of moment in time. But we wanted to be able to provide this committee with a bit of an update on this project, just to one, show where we're tracking, but also if there's any feedback or insights that you feel we need to be ensuring we capture with this piece of work.
It's really interesting. I'm sure it's really helpful for, I can think of a number of reasons why I might go with it a little bit specific. Thanks. Thank you for that. Right, questions, comments. You've wowed us. I'm quite keen to spend some time and have a bit of a look around and navigate around it.
Could I just ask, through the chair, just to try and pick up that engagement with people responding to the questions, and so it sits at around about 10% or something like that. How did we go out to the public to ask for responses, and are there any other thoughts as how we could pick that up a little bit? Because it's fantastic. It'd be lovely to get more responses.
So through the chair, if I can respond, yeah, we had project had ambitions on numbers and targets we'd like to see in terms of engagement, and a number of factors sort of had an effect on that. But in answer to your question, Councillor Jones, we went through the libraries, we went through our online Facebook, and the majority of respondents, 150, were through the Facebook channel. We went through our networks through Together Haranui, through our school newsletters, I want to say, may have, but I will double check that one. And through hard copies available here in the libraries again. Through the check, it's okay, I'll just turn to my colleague.
Absolutely. Any other main ones? I think the Youth Council took it into schools as well, didn't they? Yes.
Through the chair, but the window was fairly small. It was from October to December and coming into Christmas period. So with the project group, we've been looking at, well, what could that engagement look like? We have aspirations to take the survey into spaces. So take it to, for example, our AMP show, will take it to existing groups and actually engage in person in those spaces. But this initial one was predominantly online.
Thank you.
Can I just ask Jo, if you are taking it into those spaces, is this data that can then be updated rather than an entire new set? Or how do you see that working?
So through the chair, that's a good question, and I think we welcome feedback on that, because at this stage we're looking at a moment in time every 2 years, so the same period of time repeated. We've had some discussion about having it open the full year and just update as you go, but then you have again periods of time that could influence response, and also people could respond a number of times. So we've landed with having it as a fixed period of time, but some more intentional engagement during that period.
Sure, that would make marketing easier as well.
Just a comment, if I may. I think this information is what we've been yearning for a long time. Really understanding the nuts and bolts of how our communities function and actually make it a tangible outcome for the community, you know, so I think this is really setting a good marker. I think it's been a great exercise to help everybody. Thank you.
It's certainly a great start, isn't it? Councillor.
Through the chair, thank you, lovely work, Joe, thank you. Question, couple of them actually. One is, when is it live to the community? So we can use it. Yeah, okay. And the other question is, would this be wise to refer this into a business package, so when people are looking at doing business in the community, they could kind of link into it and direct them to it? So if I was, say, a developer or a restaurant chain or whatever I might be, I'd be able to get those stats easily with that. Could we package it at some point where it could assist business people? Just a thought.
Through the chair, in response to the two questions, Councillor Carthy, in terms of it going live, it's going live today, tomorrow, imminently.
Very soon.
Very soon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Within the next couple of days.
And through the chair, the second question, I'd like to probably take back to the project group to discuss that, about how, or look at how that might happen, whether that be through PNC, probably initial conversations with PNC, whether that information is useful, but I think that's probably something we probably just need to have some thought around.
Thank you.
Questions? Any further questions or comments? I think Melanie has summed it up very, very well. There's information that we have been using for, and as I said earlier, it'll be very useful, very useful. Anything further to add, or?
In the next update.
Yeah, when will we get? Fantastic. Okay, so being a discussion item, we're being asked to receive the information. Somebody should move that we receive this information. Thank you, Councillor Carthy. Just a second. Thanks, Melanie. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favour, please say aye. Against? Abstentions? No. Fabulous. Now I'm just aware we have a deputation at 10:45 and it's 10:23 now. So I think we will break for morning tea now. And if we can ensure that we're back in the room at maybe just up to 10:40 to welcome our deputies, that would be fantastic. Morning tea. Ready to go, Graham? Okay, welcome, Angela Clifford from Food Secure North Canterbury. So Angela, just as a means of introduction, I might just walk around the room for those people that you haven't met, and then everyone can introduce themselves, and then you can introduce yourself and we'll have a quick chat about the process. And we've met, so Angela and I are neighbours. We might start up here, so we've got Graham, who's our governance advisor, keeps me on the straight and narrow.
Hello, my name's Brett Jones. I'm here in Southwood, represent Southwood.
Cool.
Hard not to miss who is it?
It is, yeah.
I'm Chris Carthy, Westwood.
Chris Scow, Westwood.
Oh, so two Chris's from the West.
Just a good name that year.
Dave Russell, dairy farmer. Westwood.
Do you fetch other chief strategy and community?
And also in the room, we've got Paula over here from the public, and we've got Rima, who's our land and water coordinator, and Joe, who is, I almost think youth council, but Vanessa, who's here to present on Age Friendly, and our CEO, Hamish. So Angela, just before you introduce yourself and start, welcome along. It's always great to have deputies here to talk about the things that might be top of mind. All of the members have received ahead of time the slides, so should I have a look at that. So the process for deputation is we allow about 10 minutes for presentation, and then members have 5 minutes just to ask any questions of clarification that they have. And just so you know, there's no decision making as part of that process. Might be a further discussion at a later point in time. We're not too tight with time today, so
Okay.
but welcome.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Angela Clifford. I'm here today representing Food Secure North Canterbury. I'm also the CEO for Eat New Zealand, which is a national not-for-profit collective that sits across the food system and looks at our food culture, our food story, and ensuring that we have a resilient food system for all New Zealanders. And I co-own the food farm, which is a permaculture property about 10 minutes out of Amberley, which is a teaching farm. So we help other people learn how to grow food. Would you like me to just jump into it?
Go for it.
Yep.
Go for it. That's given us some good background on your.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that you've read the slides, and so I don't really want to spend too much time going through them. I really wanted to give you the opportunity to ask me questions about what role you think Horonui District Council might play in the food security space. There's a genuine opportunity because of the collective that is Food Secure North Canterbury, a governance network that sits across both district councils, and in lots of ways is really leading the country in terms of a model of how this could work moving forward. So it's a genuine opportunity for this district and Waimakariri to show some leadership nationally. And the purpose of Food Secure North Canterbury is to bring together people to strengthen our local food system and to ensure that everybody in North Canterbury is fed well. Obviously, there's some big global. Let's see if I can make this work. This is. Thank you. Did you just do that sneakily to make me look good? Yeah. Love it like that. Yeah. I might just say next slide if that's all right. Yeah, so next slide. So there's a genuine case for acting right now in this space. We are seeing extraordinary levels of food insecurity through all food banks throughout both districts at the moment. And a significant rise in New Zealand food prices. Obviously, that percentage just brings us up to February. And now with the global fuel crisis, that will increase significantly. And also, our community is changing and growing. And so what does that look like as we attempt to feed ourselves moving forwards? Next slide. There are examples of councils across Aotearoa moving in different ways. Some of the ones that we look at are places like the Dunedin City Council, Good Food Dunedin, and the involvement of economic development unit in food security, but also everywhere from Hamilton, Auckland, Palmerston North, Northland Councils and Christchurch City Council. They're all moving in slightly different ways because there is no coordinating role in this space at all. So it's always interesting to try and keep across it. Next slide. The proposal is that we see food security as critical infrastructure. So something that sits alongside public housing, other types of activities that council might be involved in. And the reason for that is that it really takes infrastructure thinking, how we move our food around our region and where it comes from, shock absorption, economic development. So what is the opportunity that sits around considering food security in our region? How could that help build businesses? And also clearly social infrastructure. And that's shown by the fact that it is community services that sits on the Food Secure North Canterbury board at the moment. So next one. So the call is to establish a working party on food relocalisation and food security. And the working party would include the Waimakariri District Council, Food Secure North Canterbury, Huranui District Council, Enterprise North Canterbury, primary producers and growers, and mana whenua. And that we would look at establishing the opportunity to map where our food is grown, identify gaps, develop a North Canterbury food security strategy, and explore the council's role. And would also enable us to connect with national peers. Next slide. So we have presented already to the Waimakariri Council, and they have asked their staff to go away and create a report as a result of this. There was really positive feedback on the opportunity. I obviously would expect Huranui District Council to talk to Waimakariri District Council around what their feelings are and what the opportunity for my hometown and region to get involved in this is. That's me.
Thank you, Angela. I'm just going to throw open to the floor just to see if there's any questions for you specifically on what you've presented. Thanks, Brett.
Yes, through the chair, I see in your list of who was involved, Waimakariri and ourselves, no mention of central government. Do you see them as getting in the way, or are they involved but just from a financial? Oh, I guess when I say getting in the way, we're better versed here on the ground in our area to know what's required. But is it, you see any central government involved, even if it is just funding?
So Eat New Zealand has been calling for a national food strategy for the last 5 years. That's been part of our role, and we're about to step into another advocacy program called Vote for Kai that will encourage political parties leading up to the next election to focus on our food system and how it might feed us better. What I've learned over the last decade of doing this is that it's important to continue to ask central government to contribute to thinking in this space, but that the speed at which they move and the fact they don't lead, they follow, means that I believe, and part of the reason I got involved with Food Secure North Canterbury, is that the true opportunity exists at local level. And that's as a result of being through 2 earthquakes and standing up food security responses to both of those earthquakes to realise that actually we are the people we've been waiting for, and there is no big white horse that's going to come in and save us. So how we design community and how we design our food system for our people will be incredibly important moving forwards.
Thank you. It's a great explanation. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Chris.
Through the chair, it's a bit of a long-winded one. Those who know me know accustomed to that from me. Do you see this being, private enterprises, the ones who drive our food source, for manufacturing, our production, whichever one we want to call it. We're presently under the shroud of discussion of GE and etc. as well. With that in mind, you're asking us to spend costs and deliver a report, when realistically, do you feel it's better for us to focus direction and support to the private businesses who produce our food and find them a better way to accommodate? Recently, I did a podcast, an international one, I was a member of part, to look at food sources, and because I go right back to 2013 when the Dutch food logistics costs were done, and I followed that through about the shortages of food. So I sympathise with where you're coming from. But if private equity were the ones to lead this, which is the more likely than council, I'm just asking, would you see that, sir?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So New Zealand works with Foundation of Arable Research, working on developing a grain mark for New Zealand to encourage New Zealanders to seek out New Zealand grown grains. And that's an example of that tension that sits between a market-led food system and one that is designed specifically to feed New Zealanders. And that's been tension, that's been part of the story of New Zealand food since we were colonised effectively. And so the opportunity for us to do both, I think it has to involve private enterprise and the private sector, but there's also an opportunity for the public sector to get involved and to work collaboratively in that space. I think the space that could really play out in terms of local council is by encouraging the economic development agency to step into this space and to play a role, because I see that as the missing piece at the moment. And if I look at someone like Good Food Dunedin, that's being led by the Economic Development Agency, and I don't see the North Canterbury EDA playing, while they play a role around North Canterbury Made and supporting and promoting North Canterbury food, they're not playing a role specifically around food security. So that could be a really clever thing that council could contribute to by asking the EDA to play more strongly in that space.
Leads me to another question. Let's look widely at what we're now talking about, community gardens. Let's take that idea you're talking about, the EDA.
Yeah.
Let's step back from that and look at where do we make the changes. Let's look at the social changes that are going to create it. When I was a child, you had your vegetable garden at home. You learned how to grow vegetables. That has been completely removed out of our youth. Maybe that's somewhere else that we could draft to look at. So let's consider this. We've got community gardens establishing. I live up in Waikato Way. We've got a very successful one there that's going ahead, starting to feed the community. In England, they used to have the allotments. They're not there now, we know that, but then we can see where that comes. Again, I come back to this. I keep coming back when I make my notes. Private equity leads this, private companies, the farmer, the grower, the orchardist, the winemaker, whoever they may be. How do you see us getting, because I've dealt a lot to Satisfy and I know it's very well and all that. I understand that end of it. So how do we get to our growers to make them understand they have to produce more product? Then we come up with a logistical problem, like how do we get it to market? And where is the market? That's the $5 question.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Eat New Zealand, we developed a model called a mana-centred local food system that looks at both the input, the infrastructure of the middle and how you have to solve those pieces, and also the igniters. So what we need to do to change or to tip food systems in favour of thriving local food systems. And there's lots of opportunities that can be done there. Again, super important that we ensure that our farmers and our food producers are part of this conversation and what role they see in terms of feeding our community. And I think that has to be an ongoing collaborative conversation. I don't think you can talk about food in our district or in any district without involving the people who are growing it. There is a power imbalance in terms of private equity and how that money's being spent, and knowing a little bit about the regenerative agriculture space. There's interest from private equity investing, but there's still, we're not seeing it flow through. So there's a lot of embedded power and money and resource in the status quo. And to really affect food system transformation, there needs to be a culture change. And so for me, that culture change comes from community, it comes from grassroots level, and it comes from organisations like this who have something to say about the fact that their communities are fed well.
One last little statement by, so I keep holding everybody up. We have a massive amount of imported food coming to this country, and we produce so much. This is not a statement of anything else. But do you see a way we can? Do you think that this would help change the vision and direction, so long as it's profitable? Because remember, growers have to make profit to pay tax, pay wages, fulfill the tank.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not about dismantling our current system, it's about building another one alongside. So it's about strengthening an alternative. It's not about not acknowledging the importance that exporting our food plays for New Zealand as an economy. But it is important right now to step into a space of changing our thinking about how we feed our own people. And yes, I've been reasonably vocal about the fact that we are importing a lot of food that could be produced by our farmers, and that affects our social licence, it affects our health, and it also affects the way that we see food. And that's really
Thanks, Angela. Madam Mayor.
You wanna go, Dave, first?
Oh, yeah, sure. Councillor Song.
Yeah. I suppose I've been around the agriculture industry for 40 odd years. Been on the peripheral of organic farming and watching collectives in the Wairarapa. Essentials, harmony, meats, a whole lot of things. So I'm just trying to work out what you're trying to achieve. Is it to make, because I'm all for affordable, trustworthy food for my people, for our people, right? That's what I'm after. I always will say the market will determine what's grown. Right? So my question, so I'm trying to work out, is this food security, fair and trusted food for people? Or because I've just watched all these collectives and all these harmonies and they all go broke. Or all rely on a lot of public money. My sustainability is giving some people some power of having a job and the ability to buy the food. So I just, what's the food security? If you've got wages and if you've got money, you've got food security because you can buy the product. So what is this trying to, I'm still a bit lost. Is it healthy foods? Is it food bank type stuff? What are we trying to do?
Yeah, sure.
So I just, when the regenerative farming bit came up to me and
I totally get where you're coming from and I can answer your question. You're right. So what happens, and this is the infrastructure of the middle and the market-driven system that we're talking about. So initiatives come up, they come straight up against the wall of the current system, and it's incredibly difficult for them to do something different because we fall back to this market-driven system that actually is starting to really significantly not feed our people. So 1 in 3 New Zealanders now face food insecurity. So that's 30% of our people, and it's rising. So the system as it sits doesn't work. So what's the opportunity to change that? So let me give some examples of what that might look like in our district to help you understand. It could look like understanding what our food flows are and where we get our food from, what we would do in the case of an emergency, how we would change our food. It might look at strengthening opportunities around on-farm pasteurisation, on-farm mills. We're so lucky in that we have a abattoir that distributes to our community, might look at things like education, making sure that our people understand how to grow food, that we make sure that it's part of our children's understanding as well as they move through our school system. It could look like places where communities grow food collectively, like community gardens, or places where communities come to eat together. So pulling together food from our community to make sure everybody in our community is fed. It could also look like, I don't know, loss attributing qualifying companies for our food producers, just to really stretch it out. It could look like how council enables and supports our food producers who are feeding our communities. It could look like the fact that only about 10% of the food businesses that are presented to the council in idea form make it through to fruition. It's actually less than that, but let's be generous. And really working and focusing on increasing that amount to create incubation and to create opportunity for small food businesses to thrive. It's not to say that council's not doing that, but there is an opportunity to really put some focus on that if as a council you determine that actually we're going to start working on food security and this is going to be a priority for us. So it could look like any of those things, really. It could look like local food dollars, it could look like local procurement. So every time you have morning tea at council, you make sure that the food that you are eating is grown in your local community. It could look like any of those things.
So a supplementary through the chair, dairy. It's, you know, pasteurisation on farm. It's just not adding up. You know, the amount of milk that I produce, you know, it just doesn't add up. And
yeah, so it's working on why it doesn't add up and understanding what that is.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty simple. But anyway, I'm just trying to work out what we're trying to do.
Madam
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Angela, for your presentation. And I note with interest in the front end of your presentation, you talked about, you know, the growth of food banks and agencies that actually are supporting, you know, food sustainability and feeding our people. And I acknowledge that because we understand that in the space that some of us work in. But I guess you've sort of touched on it a little bit, but with the will and support of community, what would success look like? What would be, I mean, we'll never be at the end goal, but you know, what would success like in a I guess an ability for us all to implement a small change that actually, you know, makes a big difference to the community that we live in?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because we talked about this at the Food Secure North Canterbury Horonori forum that we had. We actually asked our community what success would look like. And the picture they painted was really beautiful and really rich and really quite specific. And they talked about their ability to be able to access their local food more easily and to create better social connection through food and to design communities that meant that they had access. I can share the actual vision with the committee if you would like me to. I can just send it through as an amendment.
Look, I actually think that would be really helpful. I mean, I know both Mari and I were at that meeting at Hilly, and it was very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And you know, that was, for those of you who aren't aware, at the Bowling Club, and I was really surprised at the number of our community that came out and said, yes, this is what we want, and they have a very clear vision.
Yeah,
a very clear vision. And not only that, it's not an expectation that it will be done for them, but as part of the community that they would leave it. So I think it'd be very helpful to share that with the entire committee.
Happy to send that. And yeah, I think that's it. It's the council, there's no expectation the council's going to do this or that the council should spend, you know, millions of dollars, but really that the council's an enabler and it sees this as an important part their job. And because there's such strong feeling within community about this, particularly now, I think it's really important that the councils seem to reflect that strong community feel.
And there is strong feeling at the moment. Many of you might be aware of, there's a very strong group that formed actually from that, Hui, in regards to a food, forest and community garden, which is well underway, and we'll have that happening in the first planting day of the month now. So that's really exciting. I'm going to come back to Murray.
Sorry, just
chain of thought.
You've cited Enterprise North Canterbury. Have you made contact with Enterprise North Canterbury to consider a presentation to the board of Enterprise North Canterbury?
No, we haven't. We wanted to talk to council first, but that's definitely.
So you will action that?
I can, yes.
Yeah, okay.
If you think that's the appropriate way to. Yeah.
Well, I think if I can just finish that. Yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity because you've cited sort of that business mechanism, and with it being CCO of both Waimakariri and Haranui, it would seem like an important position for you to insert this information into, and where that takes, I guess we'll be over to that.
Yeah. I mean, this is my hometown, this is my home council, and I can see that Waimakariri is interested and is leading the way. It would be very important to me that there was representation from Haranui Council, and I would probably come and pester you many, many times if there wasn't. You needed a threat as well as encouragement.
We'd much rather a carrot. It would seem appropriate, wouldn't it?
We're forming relationships.
Yes, leaders. But yeah, I personally, it would just be wonderful to see my council lean into this space. And also just wanted to acknowledge Kaikoura. I understand that Kaikoura District Council and Haranui District Council are working closely on a number of other projects as well. And food security is incredibly important for that council too. So what are the opportunities to collaborate in that space with them too?
Chris.
I speak to the room, and we've been on the site, to be honest. This is an area that I've been following for some time. In 2013, Dutch logistics engineers did a global report on food. There were shortages then. I won't go into the detail, and since then, they estimate 2 billion will be in that 3 out of 1 you're talking about. It's hit 2 billion by 2030 this year. 2030 upcoming will be starving and not seeing food arriving. The logistics failures are global. The control and the increase in climate change in certain areas have traditionally been food sources. But essentially what we've got is we've got a logistics problem meshed globally. And so I watch the Dutch for a lot of reasons because they're clever in areas, particularly in their reporting. Their latest report in 2024 echoed the increases, the changes that happened. I'll give you an example. 80% of what Vietnam grew rotted on the ground before it went to market. By the way, we don't do that well here. We're over 40. So that's the waste this country's having as well. So I sympathise with where you're coming. I have a relationship with Satisfy, and I know what's been going on out there for some time. I don't know how we can change it, but we've got to figure out a way to encourage our growers to change. And we've got to look at the monopolies, the powerful three, who control the retail end. We need to find a way around them. I don't know how to do it, but I'm just saying to the room that's something that we're going to have to manage going forward if we are able to assist.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
The other Chris.
Chris. I was a bit like Dave. I read the slides and sort of wondered what this is all about. To me, the big picture is over the last couple of 100 years, we've had urbanisation, where people have shifted off the land to cities and then left it up to a very small proportion of our population to provide food for us. And in recent years, it's become very critical of how they've done that. And I think it's gone further in recent years where you look at these new subdivisions, people don't even want a lawn or a garden because that's just extra work. So we've really taken away that ability to be self-sufficient and grow our own food. So I wonder how much of this is actually a culture shift that we are no longer able to support ourselves. So is it a matter of education and a culture shift that we need to be able to be more self-supported? I came from rural New Zealand, where we were brought up, where we grew a large majority of our own food. I mean, getting groceries was flour and sugar, really. Everything else we pretty much grew ourselves. So is it a culture shift to go back to being able to be more self-sufficient? And you said you are a co-owner of a food farm where you educate people to grow their own thing. And I wonder how much of it is actually education for people to be able to grow their own food and also be able to use the food they grow. Because I know even in food banks that we've been involved in, even giving away potatoes, people don't know what to do with them or how to use them. Or is it understanding the culture shift that we've had and then adapting to that, as in allowing those people that are left to grow the food? And as you say, is it the security from there to the supermarkets to actually get that food to those people in urban areas, especially in times of emergency? Yeah. So sorry, possibly not really a question, but I guess the big picture is, are we trying to beef up what has happened over the last couple of 100 years, or is it about education and actually getting people to be able to be a bit more self-sufficient?
I think it's both. I think education, and with the fact we've moved away from the land, we've moved away from understanding where our food comes from, or cooking from scratch, or any of those things is a really important part of the definition of food security. But then also we've lost connection with our farmers. So only 7% of New Zealanders work rurally, so work on farming or growing our food. So that's stark electoral statistic. And unless we keep connection with those farmers, then their ability to continue to grow our food will continue to be limited. And they will find the job that they do harder and harder. So if what you do is produce food that is sent away and never seen by New Zealanders, then your ability to communicate or have relationship with New Zealanders who ultimately choose everything from your local council to your regional council to your national government will continue to be more limited. So I think there's a real opportunity for our food growers also to see the positive side and the opportunity that sits around growing food for community. Now, it might mean that that isn't all they do, or even a little part of what they do, and there might be farmers who are never interested in that. But there is an opportunity for the ones that are, and for the ones that see value in that, to become part of our food security story. And what are the mechanisms and levers within council to be able to do that?
Thanks, Angela. Dave, I'm just going to come to you as maybe a close-up question.
Yeah, I 100% get it. The food security, like a country is only 9 days away from anarchy of no food. I still come back to it's not a cost of living crisis we have in New Zealand, we have an income crisis. We're now not earning as much money as what we used to 20, 30 years ago. Going back in time, households spend 40–60% of their money on food. They spend a lot less now. Got buying consumer goods, whatever. You know. So I don't know. To me, the chain, and as a farmer, the amount of product we produce, well, it has to be exported. There's only this amount that can stay. And I get it that we need the social license to do that. But I'm just not into symbolism. So there's whole lots of things that have got this disconnecting people on the farms. Work safe, health and safety. People don't like people coming on there because they're worried about kids on farms. So that's all these disconnects that we're having in the urban, two generation urbanisation. So what you're doing is good. Still think it's the market's got to do all this.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I really do. And I actually want to acknowledge the importance of having people who grow our food sitting around this table and being represented in council. And that gives me great hope that you are here and engaging and being part of this conversation. I think that there is an opportunity for us definitely to work on reconnection. So at Food Secure North Canterbury this year, we started an event called Grow and Tell, which was a chance to open farms and gardens around the district that were growing food, sort of on the back of the open farm scheme that isn't happening anymore, and the opportunity to build that as a community. So what would it look like to have a day where people do come to farms and understand where our food comes from? And that's definitely something that Food Secure North Canterbury is working on. I can't solve the income problem for New Zealand. If I could, I would earn a lot more than I currently do. My place to stand is in food, and I think the opportunity is to encourage my community to stand there as well.
Thank you. Angela, just I guess to finish, just, you know, in education, and I'm passionate about that, and we have a government at the moment who are very passionate about what they term knowledge-rich curriculum, and in my mind, there is no knowledge more important than how to sustain oneself. So I wonder, New Zealand Food Secure North Canterbury playing any part in feeding into curriculum development, because actually we're going to be told what to teach our children, and I would really like to see that as a, you know, a cornerstone of the information that we do impart.
Yeah, it's disappointing, like even home economics is being taken away from being able to cook and understanding how to do that from scratch, and that really concerns us, and we have representatives as part of our national organisation that are incredibly concerned about that direction. So I do think there is an opportunity to feed into curriculum. I think this is such a fluid space right now, as every level of educational institution is working out how they future-proof their curriculum for their students. And I actually feel quite hopeful that as we move forward, those basic skills about how to live and how to be in society will be more useful and seen to be more useful. Looking at your face, I hope that you do too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah.
I don't know that our current government shares that
vision
but quite yet.
I think the direction or trajectory of travel will suggest that maybe future governments have to.
Well, look, thank you, Angela. It's been a really powerful discussion, and you've given us real food for thought, actually. Food of the pump. Yeah. But it's certainly a discussion that we'll need to continue as to what does it look like for our council, and how can we find ourselves in that space in an appropriate way. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Answering my questions as well. And we'll look forward to getting that little snapshot.
Yes, I'll send it through.
From the people from the community.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Lisa, you've been waiting very patiently in the wings over there to update us on the Huranui Age Friendly Program, page 82 of our agenda. Thanks, Lisa. Welcome. Good morning.
Thanks for having me. It's been a little while since I come to this committee to talk age friendly. So I know there's a couple of new faces around the table. So I'm a community development facilitator as part of the team that Joe leads. And age friendly takes probably 10 to 12 hours a week for me out of my 40-hour role. I've got a couple of other portfolios that I look after. So just wanted to highlight that in terms of what gets discussed here today. So I'd like to take the report as read. and just sort of highlight a few things that have kind of occurred over the last sort of 6 to 8 months. I'm really lucky that we were such a diverse team, which allows for some really cool collaborations. So with Emma, who is our Safer Roads facilitator, we've been able to bring Age Concern, who do a safer driving course for our older demographics, sort of around those that are around the 70s when the licensing starts to change for them. And we had one at Colverdon, and thanks to a local person as well who helped bring really the troops. We got about 14, 15 people there from that particular area, right through from a couple from Waio and a couple from Emma Springs. So that was really amazing for us because we had to cancel it a couple of times. And then on the flip side of that, earlier this year, we had one in Waikari. Wasn't quite sure how that was going to go, just, you know, smaller numbers there, but in the end we had 33 people. So credit to the local medical centre, who really the troops as well, sending out text messages and getting on the phone for us. And of those 33, about 6 of those hadn't actually RSVP'd, so we were caught a little bit on the hop, had to rustle a bit of extra lunch, but that's okay. Went really, really well. And from that, just recently was Road Safety Week. Emma was able to offer some, I won't say coaching, but more a session with a local provider to give our older drivers a bit more confidence behind the wheel. So they came in their own vehicle, they worked through like blind spots, making them a bit more comfortable, and then Graham took them out for a spin around the roads. And on Facebook, we had the lovely Anne Little, who's a local Emberley person, beaming from her car, praising it, saying how wonderful it was and what a good confidence boost it was. So it was really great to see that take there. And I'll have a wee chat with Emma, and hopefully this could be something that can be rolled out. And so while the space doesn't have an operational budget, being able to collab with somebody like Emma who does means that I can help with resource, she can help with the operational side of things, which is really cool. Local community groups. I have a regular date with the Emberley Friendship Club once a month. So it's a really golden opportunity to be able to provide a council update to their members. And on average, probably about 65, 70 people out of their 99, almost 100 members are there on a monthly basis. And it's got to the point where I struggle to walk down the street without somebody yelling out Vanessa and asking me what I'm up to. So it's really lovely to have those connections outside of that group as well. I've also been lucky enough to be invited to the Emma Springs Provost group, and I went with Mark from the library and had a bit of an update with them, so it was good to get into a different part of our district. And also working really closely with Karen from the Emberley Library, who does a lot of connection out in the community. So you'll see in the appendix there is an advert for tea and Scrabble and a couple of photos from our 2025 event. So on Thursday we'll be in Chidia, and while a small group have RSVP'd, it's just nice to be doing something in a different part of the district. And then on the 21st we're back at Emberley, and looking forward to hanging out with everybody there, playing either Banana Grams Scrabble or the traditional Scrabble. And it's in recognition of International Tea Day. So just trying to incorporate something and just create these events. So, another highlight is the Age Friendly Steering Group. We wouldn't have an action plan, and I wouldn't have some motivation to get some of this stuff done if it wasn't for them. So I have to acknowledge those that started and those that are new to the space as well. So tail end last year, a couple of members stood down for various reasons. So that involved going back out to the community. So we had 3 new people who have put their hand up to be involved, which is really lovely, and come with a variety of backgrounds as well. So one is has real estate knowledge, farming, long-term resident. Another one is a co-worker here at the council who, once again, long-term resident, a lot of connections in the community, and one who is currently working with Bernardo, so knows a lot about community, the community and the family dynamics that are out there. So looking forward to bringing them into the loop as well. And then another highlight for me, there has been Office for Seniors. So that's our kind of national organisation that we can get support from. So they have created the New Zealand Age Friendly Network, and that's with councils and areas. And we meet quarterly online, but outside of that, I've had some one-on-one time with Tessa, who's the project lead, and then Nikki, who is, I think she's about 8 months into the role. She's the director of Office for Seniors, actually planned a visit and came out to Engley to see me, so it was really lovely to be able to update her on everything that we're trying to achieve here in the district. They provide oodles of support, motivation, and even just that insight into some of that more strategic stuff coming from central government as well, which is invaluable. So what's coming up? As I've mentioned, we've got the Tea and Scribble events. Super excited to also be focusing on intergenerational opportunities, and have had some time with our youth council, and was floored about how many of their members are really excited to be a part of this space as well. So I've had some one-on-one time with them all, and then a smaller group online the other day. And so they've come up with a couple of ideas that I now need to take back to the steering group, and then look at how we can bring these two ages together. One of their ideas was an intergenerational ball, because they do really well with their own formals. So I was like, okay, right, okay, this is cool. What else comes behind that? No, I don't know, but we just love the idea. So, hey, it's a starting point. So that's where we'll start with them. They've also expressed some interest in helping with a couple of the other events that are planned as well. Partly so they can do some community service hours and things like that, which is pretty cool. And then we've got International Day of Older Persons and Grandparents will be coming up in October. So working alongside Karen from the library with that. Once we get past the Tea and Scribble events, we'll then really focus and hone into what we want to do there and try and create for the community. From that, actually talking with the deputy principal at English School, because I think there's some opportunities there for some of their older students to be involved in that. So meeting with you shortly to go into a bit more finer detail. And then I've just had this morning the absolute confirmed date. So the 21st of November, we'll be hosting a 10-piece band that does music sort of from the 50s through to about the 70s. So super excited to be hosting them. So I'll be bringing the steering group together, some of those youth together, because I can't do it by myself, and I want to make sure I get all the boxes ticked and just create an event for the district. And while it will be focused on our older community, so that are over 65s, anybody will be welcome. So yeah, looking forward to getting that underway as well. So I think it's probably about it in a nutshell. I'm happy to take any few questions or such like.
Wow, you've been really busy. And it's really exciting. I mean, Dave was, I'm just thinking back to the last term, and Dave would say, you know, when you came in and we were going to have this survey, and Dave was like, yeah, but what are we going to do with it? And that turned into this amazing age-friendly action plan, and you know, it truly is in action now. So that's really refreshing and so important, given the data that we talked about this morning as part of our environmental scan of our ageing population. So lots happening. It's fantastic. All right, questions, comments, discussion.
Start off with the 21st of September. Do we know where that will be?
Sorry, November.
Sorry, September. No, November.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll be there.
At Bedlington. Okay, that's cool. But yeah, I just want to endorse the work that you've been doing and how influential you have been in, you know, bringing these important members of our community together and giving them opportunities. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, lovely piece of work, wonderful, thank you. Now listen, just a quick, you know, I like throwing grenades into the place because I always like watching people go, oh my gosh, here it goes again. We've just had our, you were privy to what we've just crossed over with the aged over the food thing. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a part in our aged community that we could look to in It's a part of this because they do know how to do this.
Yeah.
It's just suddenly I was listening to you and going, wow, imagine if serendipity happened here. You know, it was just something I thought I'd just, pull the pin and throw it in the room.
It's a great question. I think from my point of view, being involved in the Amberley Community Garden / Food Forest, we actually are. We are drawing on the abilities and the skills of some of these people, and they're really excited to be able to impart that to other
Community gardens the same. Our community gardens the same. Look at the demographic. It's the same thing.
But anyway, I'm answering for you.
Sorry, yeah.
I can already just see it naturally happening.
Through the chair, yes, absolutely. And funny enough, having that conversation with the small group of youth councillors online, I said, sort of digressed a bit, and I went, so do you want to learn anything from our older community? And they looked at me blankly down the screen. I said, do you knit? Do you crochet? Do you preserve? And that got on to other different conversations, to which I might be jumping the gun here. There might be a bit of a challenge between the youth council and our elected members for like a master chef kind of competition. So yeah, they are fully open to that, and I wouldn't like to say guarantee, but I could almost pick that yes, there would be members in our community that would love to give back and share their knowledge. Because volunteering came up in the survey results, wanting to. So there's absolute definite correlation there. It's just how big and where to sort of start and where to bring that into it. But yeah, needs sort of all elements to align for that. But, yeah, totally open to that.
I think what the young grenade I got.
Yeah, that's a great thought. It's a great thought. Anybody else? Yeah, well, as I've already said, and Murray's certainly endorsed your work, it's fantastic work and it's very important work. So keep it up, it's awesome. And we're going to touch base on that in regards to this in a little bit. Okay, do I have someone who is going to receive this information? Thank you, Chris. Someone to second. Thanks, Dave. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstentions? Carried. Well, thank you so much, Vanessa. Just keep up the great work. I'm really interested in what this intergenerational wall might look like.
I know. I was like a bit mind blown. So do you want to learn how to waltz? And they went, oh, we could line dance because all the old people line dance. And I was like,
there you go.
That's a bit of a generalisation, but yeah.
Everyone loves an excuse for a good party.
Yeah, they're full of ideas. So you're looking forward to that.
It's good. It's good and positive.
Yes,
Thank you, Vanessa. Okay, Rena, I'll welcome you to the table to do our water and land coordinator update. You can find that report on page 88 of your agenda. Welcome, Rena. Nice to have you here. It's been a little while. So the first time I think for this training is to hear from you on the important work that you do. I'm just going to throw it over to you.
Oh, good. This is good, except it's not like this one. I think you might have had a bit of help.
Thank you.
Greetings, everybody.
Have you met everybody? Would you like us to do around the table or?
I had because I presented at the induction sort of day or something.
Okay, well then if you're comfortable, we won't go to the table. Thanks, Rima.
So I think the report is read, and I'll just go through and highlight some of the interesting things. So, a big focus of my work at the moment is a new weed on the block called purple willow. This is a very serious weed that has got limbstock, ecan landowners very concerned.
purple willow has been used as a sterile clone for river embankment stabilisation, and it's only male clones have been planted, but it's turned out to be gender fluid. So we now have seeds forming, and it creates great carpets of seedlings. These are flexible in water, so they bend in floods and pop back up again. They grow so fast that even in pasture, the stock don't keep up with it, so it's invading pasture. The Conway River would be wall to wall with willow that evening. You can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars clearing just the water fairway. The river burns are getting totally forested by this weed in the Conway, and that's harbouring a lot of pests and predators. So I'm in the process of running a forum, a workshop of all of the stakeholders to talk about what can be done and where it is, and is containment an option, what are the controls? Because this is a huge problem for biodiversity in our rivers. If we have all the rivers covered in purple willow, we produce some silver anymore, and of course it's expanding out. So yeah, it's something. This is if you get your eye and you notice and it comes up, it's also called basket willow because it's a willow that was grown for basket making. It's one of the basket willows. So it's a big focus in my work at the moment.
Can I just interrupt? What's the treatment? Is it a spray? Is it a rubbing? Is it?
It is spraying, but of course you can't spray in water bodies. So yeah, spraying near the water bodies is what's happening. And grazing used to be an option for willow that was invading pasture, but Jaden McFadden rang me the other day and said it was growing faster than the stocky did. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, the Birdsong Trust, many of you will know about the project in the Scarborough Waka domain. This is the 4th year of planting. We've planted a lot of the Little Valley Wetland Complex sort of to the east of the domain, and now this year 600 plants are going in the wetland tributary to the west. The plants are doing incredibly well. We've had very high success rate, and the community is still turning up to plant. And it's we're planting Bagatea in this little wetland at the moment. So yeah, foundation. I've been running a Weed Busters group for the last year and a half in conjunction with the Hurunui Biodiversity Trust. So we're still doing monthly events out anywhere, all over the district actually. We've been into the high country a couple of times. We vary the difficulties. So we've got this great long list of people who come on our Weed Busters events, and then they pick and choose which events suit them time-wise and degree of difficulty. So last Sunday we were at the Avenue Wetland. Since the grazing has ceased on the wetland there, the grey willow saplings are taking hold. So the saplings are about this high. I've been growing for about a year and a half since the grazing has stopped. So we just did a beat. We had people just lining up, walking across, because the grey willows were sort of scattered all over the wetland. So hundreds were taken out. We took them all away in sacks so that if it all gets wet, they don't resprout. So that was a big successful day just on Sunday, one of our many events for the year. I work with the Hurunui Biodiversity Trust very closely. We both sort of amplify each other's work and support what we do. I supported them running a weed workshop, and one of the very interesting aspects of the weed workshop was the presentation by Manaki Whenua, who are doing biocontrol agents for Old Man's Beard. This is a sawfly. There's a site on the Waipa riverside where they produce the sawfly. As you can see, the caterpillar eats the leaves. The adult doesn't do anything to the plant, just makes them babies. But the fact that we had adults and larvae at the same time was very encouraging. Quite a complicated process getting a biocontrol agent for
So any plant in Serbia where old man's beard is native, there's probably 1 or 2 dozen pathological agents that act on the old man's beard, whereas we can only bring them in 1 or 2 or 3 at a time, and hope they establish, and hope that one of the other biocontrol agents that was brought in, it turns out that one of our local insects likes to eat it, so that's not going to establish. So it's not a straightforward thing, and whether this one, although it's opportunity eating one of the leaves, whether it actually makes an impact enough to pull the, to damage the plant remains to be seen. So the Harinui Biodiversity Trust ran a field trip to the Ashworth Beach area that the Northern Pegasus Bay Coast Care Group, with my support, been protecting. So all of that area to the right, before the Coast Care Group took charge and fenced it off and looked after it, that was all bare dirt with a lot of vehicle tracks. It was completely, it was a playground for vehicles. So the Coast Care Group are trying to reduce vehicle access to the beach to actually where it's legal, and they've got funding. They've attained $30,000 just recently from ECAN to fund fencing and signage. The day of the field trip, there was a young guy hooning around the dunes in his 4-wheel drive, so I trotted over and tapped on his window, and he didn't know he wasn't supposed to. He was a very sweet young guy, and said, look, we're just trying to look after the dunes. This is the only set of natural dunes in the whole of the Canterbury Bight that hasn't been destroyed yet. We're trying to look after it. And he goes, oh, okay, I'll tell my mates. So you never know, a bit of, interaction with the public can be a good thing. So the Coast Care Group also had 73 volunteers. I was rung up by a music camp. They try and do some volunteer work in the local area where they have their camps, and so these incredibly enthusiastic young people contributed. Well, we've probably got an hour and a half's work out of them, so that was a really big impact into the work of the Coast Care Group. So very successful day. They mulched, they planted, and they weeded. Enviro Schools is now run by ECAN, and they run a very comprehensive water quality program, and whenever they do one in the Harinui district, I come along and help out and sort of give a bit of local colour to the event. This was with Harinui College. It's the 3rd one I've been involved with. And it was quite neat because some of these teenagers turned up with a bit of attitude, but throughout the morning they got really engaged, they got into the science, they got into the critters, and their attitude all vanished, and they were totally into the scene. So that was it was really nice to see, actually, giving them out of the classroom and some practical work that they totally got engaged with. So the Harinui Youth Council, so this ties in with what Vanessa was just talking about, actually. I gave a presentation to the Friendship Club about a year and a half ago and mentioned this site. This site here is on the banks of the Kauai River. In between that new subdivision, actually I've just got it on the map here, you see the domain on the bottom right there, the new subdivision on Douglas Road, and then the area that I've marked out is it's half a hectare. It's completely clear, waiting to be planted as far as I can see. It's Lynn's land, no one looks after it, no one cares about it. So I'm in contact with Lynn's to see if we can give it to the Youth Council to restore to native planting. So when I spoke to the Friendship Club, a lot of the older people there were very keen to be involved as well, and they can totally see the Youth Council and the retired people working together, so that as the Youth Council cycles through with young people, the retired people can provide continuity and advice, and like we were talking about, a bit of knowledge. So the Youth Council, if this all goes ahead, will apply for funding to get a track put in, a track from the domain, hopefully, that would be the plan. And Weedbusters can help with weedings because the bank has got some gorse on it, so it all ties in, and it's a really exciting project. The Youth Council are pretty keen on this idea. It will be a multi-year project developing that. near Kauai Forest on the Kauai River. And lastly, the Amberley Environment Restoration Group, this is the group of people who are gearing up to take care of the Amberley wetland that the council has purchased. They were very lucky to be gifted this little nursery complete with 3,000 plants. It was a project in Christchurch that was winding up, so they've been repotting the plants so that they can grow on for another year and be big enough to plant into the wetland. But also, I've always had in the back of my mind for quite a long time that I would like to have a community-run native plant nursery, and the materials that they were gifted, there's plenty left over for another nursery. So once I find a group of people who want to start up a native plant nursery, the people here are storing the materials for us. So the restoration group just recently, there was an ECAN funding round that came round, and it was actually put out at very short notice, which was quite hard for the community groups because they have to have meetings, and it's quite hard to get things done quickly. But I leaned on this group and said, I'll just get something in, and they applied for funding to get a restoration plan drawn up, and they got their funding. So they will now get a restoration plan worked out so that when there comes time for them to work with the council to be taken on as the guardians of this piece of land in whatever form it takes, they'll have a plan to present to council. And that's it. Thank you very much.
That's quite a lot. Very busy as always. And always when you speak about your work, I can always feel the passion that you have for our land. Right, questions, comments, discussion. Yes, Bruce.
Unusual. Community native plant nursery. I like the sound of that. Question. How much or how many plants per annum do you think we would need? I know that's a pretty tough ask.
So through the chair, there's plenty of need for plants.
Yep.
So basically, however many people, like I sort of have got the model of the Living Springs Nursery in Little River in my mind, which started with 4 people.
Yep.
And they just started growing some plants, and now they're growing about 20,000 plants a year. So it's expanded, but it's growing at its own pace.
Yep.
So it depends totally on the people who are involved.
Supplementary then will be, I've been through the Christchurch City Councils many times, their nursery down there by the airport, behind Victoria. It's quite spectacular where it's driven to. I've seen it grow from just being the tree nursery to what it was. So the question I suppose is, so if we were to, because I think it's a no-brainer to produce our own product instead of having to buy it in, how would we kick that off?
It needs some people. It actually needs some people in the community who say, right, let's do this. We're keen. Like I say, we've just got hold of the materials. We've possibly got enough materials to start a nursery that could produce maybe 3,000 plants a year, that sort of thing. So yeah. And I've spoken to the property people here, and they have said that once we get, once it's ready to go, we could get a site.
Great. Another question or another point. Well, do you think that being able to, as we build the seedlings, and then of course they split them and make more and more, and they develop that, what sort of structures do you think we'd need to support that?
Like physically.
Yes.
Yes. No, very little. Actually, yes. It's you could start in a space half the size of this room and just
outdoors.
Yeah. And then the materials we've got for shade house and things like that. So we've got shade house material.
Do you think something we could roll out around our community gardens?
I haven't seen the site. It depends on the site.
They're all a bit different, I suppose, aren't they? I'm just thinking outside the square, trying to make it community so that they own it, they take it on board, and it'll grow. Just a thought.
It's quite running a plant nursery is quite a different thing to growing food. Right. So a lot of people will have sort of combined interests, but I don't think it would be good to split the interests of the community garden group at this stage, but through those networks, we might find people who are interested in doing that. Should you and I talk about this sometime?
We love the idea.
Yeah, that's some details.
Yeah. Good idea.
That's a good idea. Great. Great.
Through the chair, if I could just ask a quick question in relation to the Peterson's Bay Coast Care Group. Are they going to be involved in this possible bylaw that we know they are?
Very.
Yeah, I would imagine because it's right in there, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Just on your work with the weed busters, with weeds likes of the purple willow and old man's beard, I just noticed up our way in the riverbeds, old man's beard just seems to be taking over considerably. And every little bit helps, but do you feel you're making progress, or is it a bit of a losing battle? Or
through the chair, with the weed busters, we are very site led. So we go to a site. So the only time we've done Old Man's Beard is in the Port Robinson Reserve, where it's just coming in. So it's a sort of idea going, okay, we're not going to do anything that's past this particular thing we will get. And on another side, it's a little remnant, bush remnant that has been completely covered. The landowners are doing a lot to free the remnant, and weed busters came and helped. So with the Old Man's Beard has gone completely out of control in our release. Nobody has got a solution for that except for the hope for biocontrol. Really, that's I can't see. I don't think anyone can see a way of dealing with people for the Old Man's Beard.
thank you.
Can I just ask, in regards to you talked about the biocontrol of the sawfly, presumably there's quite a process to get some sort of biocontrol approved. And I'm just thinking about, you talked about one previous one, and then the local insects like to eat them. Unintended consequences, or
this has been a 30-year project. They grow because so we've got native clematis and Old Man's Beard is a clematis, so they grow our own clematis in an environment. They make sure that the new insects don't like them, and that one of the insects that they have brought up, we're trialing, does actually like our own clematis, so that's out of the picture. Generally, they choose insects that are pretty specific to that particular plant, and that's not unusual in the insect world for an insect to be, just that's the only thing it eats. So yeah, but incredibly, and I think in New Zealand there haven't been any biocontrol agents that have been brought in that have come.
Next, Chris.
Another direction, wilding pines. What do we do?
So as weed busters have done 2 sites,
yes.
So, and other than that, it's not really my area, it's too big. So again, it's for my work and for weed busters, it's site led. So we went to Island Hill Station and helped in one of their Kiwi 2 covenants, and then also a dock site in the Wild Mosswood. So yeah, it's
a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got a few.
Well, I was stunned. I went up through there the other day. It's quite taken back. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Oh, well, you've been very busy. Keep up the good work, and we'll look forward to having another report back from you in due course. And it sounds like you and Chris are going to touch base to talk about native plants nurseries and potentials. So that's good.
That'll be great. I'll be in touch.
Okay. Good idea, Chris. Right. So I'm going to move from the chair that the information be received. There's someone to see them. Thanks, Brett. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Fantastic. It's carried. Okay, thank you, Roma.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Right. on to our last application item today, which is on page 93, the large bit. This is our strategy and policy committee work program. And oh, did I miss something?
No.
No, I didn't miss
No, I
anything.
was just
You
looking
looked
at
at.
yours, mine's A4.
Oh, you looked at me like I was. Anyway, welcome to the table, Andrew, and you're going to take us through the program.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, all. Good to see you all. Yeah, so just I guess two main things to update you on. There's a table 1 on page 93 is an update on some of the projects that were discussed in March. Is a minor change to the Northern Pictures Bay bylaw timeframe. So I think we previously signalled we were going to workshop a draft bylaw in July. We're going to push that out to August so that we can sort of get all our ducks lined up. It won't have any impact on when the final bylaw is adopted or made by the council, which is due in by 1 July next year. But we just want to make sure that the information that we present you is clear and accurate. Gambling policy, we're potentially seeking approval to adopt a new policy at the July Strategy and Policy Committee meeting. And similarly with the operation of drones over council reserve land, both of those we're anticipating are largely a rollover of the existing policies. And in the final one on page 94 is the complaint compliance. We're all discussing this with the manager of compliance, but again, we're hoping that we'll be able to bring that to council, the committee for endorsement at the July meeting. Happy to take any questions before we move on to page 94 and 95.
Just to clarify, the Northern Pictures Bay bylaw consultation or feedback that's closed, is that what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that closed in March, and Steph is just going through and trying to break down what that feedback was into the various themes, and with a view that will probably present it at the August workshop.
And no submissions to be heard? Or?
No submissions. So it was purely feedback to help inform, here understand what some of the issues are. It'll inform the development of potentially a bylaw, or our thinking into whether a bylaw is actually the best way to move forward. But yeah, so no hearing process per se. But it's a precursor. Consultation is a precursor to the final consultation on draft bylaw.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Chris.
So, yeah, through the chair, operations of drones over council reserve land, will that encumber roadsides and roads as well?
I don't believe so, but I'll need to check.
Yeah, just to clarify, that would be lovely. Thank you. That was all I need to ask.
I can email and let you know, but I don't think it does.
No, just clarity. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Cool. That was all.
Okay, on pages 94 and 95, selection, I guess, of the work program over the next 12 to 18 months. They're not in any particular order. I have tried to structure it so that it's sort of those that are due for review more immediately first in line, but I was just looking through it earlier and I've obviously done something wrong in the spreadsheet and it's not quite function I put in it isn't quite stuck, but yes, there's no specific order, although we've tried to do it in a way so that those that we think need more immediate attention are dealt with first.
Great.
Just through the chair, just looking down to around the middle of the asbestos risk management policy, has that been brought about by potential demolition of the south block, and have we not currently got policy in place in relation to that?
No, we do have a policy. It's due for review.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
And I would say that before we finalise the final priorities, we'll be looking to talk to operations and finance, because some of them affect what their needs are as well. So we still to have those discussions. We're focusing primarily on the bylaws at the moment because they have a statutory requirement to be reviewed within specific timeframes. If we don't, then they're revoked. These policies are internal policies. Statutory requirement for development timeframe.
Through the chair, thank you. Disposal of assets 2022 policy. Is this for us as we look forward, as we look down at our assets on page 95? This is about us removing assets we no longer need, being, I'm understanding, is that what it is? It's just an update of that policy?
That's my understanding of that.
Yeah, cool. Okay. All right, I read it, so yeah, right, it's fine. Thank you.
There's the first three items on page 94 are Southward Spatial Plan implementation, and I've sort of grouped them into three sort of areas. And the top one, sort of a continual review of various aspects of the spatial plan. All three groups have some relationship with the upcoming amendments to the resource management system. And I won't go into any detail because I believe you're workshopping this, and local government reform. So, yeah, and again, they're not in any specific order in terms of priority, although I would suggest that that second those second two items, initiating a structure or plan change to rezone residential land and industrial land. So that's land that's been identified for future development areas in Amberley for residential and industrial use. It's something that we could look at. We can, as a council, proactively rezone land, or we can wait and leave it for the market. And that's, that's a decision that I think this committee is delegated to make those decisions. Yeah, so that's something that we could potentially bring a report back to you about whether that's something you'd be interested in progressing. It has some relationship to the development of the regional spatial plan, whatever that's going to look like in the next 12 to 15 months, 18 months. So that's all I've really got to say on any of that. I'm really just happy to take any questions.
Just on page, sorry, am I jumping here if I go to page 95? Page 95, so I'm just looking at the reserves funding policy that was reviewed in July 2018. I mean, that's 8 years out of the period, and I understand it's just an internal policy, but do we have some methodology other than you've already alluded to? Obviously, we need to do the bylaws because we have the legislative requirement to do that, but do we have some sort of
the method will be, I'll go talk to Jason and Dan. Here's our list of policies.
Which ones are
this one is 2018, as you've rightly pointed out. Why I'm not quite sure why it's not further up, probably because my formula I put into the spreadsheet.
No, I can explain it.
Okay. But yeah, so we're basically talking to Jason and Dan.
correct?
Here's our resource.
Prioritize.
What's your priority?
Yeah, sure.
Basically.
Yeah, we've had, so around just prior to the COVID announcement, there were 2 papers that were brought to council on this issue, and then the issue lay on the table during the COVID period and never came off, it's still lying on the table. But my understanding is that Dan is doing some work on this, and is he talking about reserves today? Yeah, it's on our workshop schedule, the right, Graham, you're making more over there?
Oh, sorry, Chair, yeah, he's not talking about that today. It has been said.
It's on the workshop schedule, so yeah, it is, it's not simple. It's why it's taking so long.
Thank you for the explanation. Any other questions?
Well, I was going to show you the whole program as a rather than a table. It's hard to see how they all sort of relate, but I'm not very tech savvy, and Graham might need to show me how to. Yes, there it is. Let me just do that. Share. So, yeah, a bit of a smarty box explosion. But what's this is a work in progress, and it's attempting to show all of our projects, something like 60 projects on the work program. And over time, we'll look to populate this and show where they are, final review timetables, etc. At the top, we've got the when I first started developing this is the Planning and Environment Act, Planning and Environment Bills time frames as we understood them when they were notified, and anything that subsequently fell out of it. So development of a regional spatial plan and blue there, and then a development of an environment chapter in the regional combined plan, and district land use chapter as well. So there will be some changes to how they are done, and probably / possibly when they're done. As the bill was notified, development of a regional spatial plan, for example, was to be notified 15 months after the bill was came into effect. We understand that might be about September. I don't know if anyone's heard anything else, and whether that's going to change. 15 months from a practitioner's point of view is quite short, and whether the ministers listen to that or not, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, so that's really just to show the various pinch points for various projects. And the reason why is, we can use so on here. We don't know when it's going to come into effect. It's a month after it's gained royal assent, the new bills come into effect, and then that's when all the various clocks start on when you've got to get various chapters and plans prepared and notified. So yeah, a bit of a sliding scale done on a quarterly basis, subject to change.
Awesome. Any questions in regards to that? I'm just thinking, thank you for that update. Just thinking, do we need to receive that information? Cover sheet, it's just an ongoing thing. Okay, right, well with that, thank you for the update. And if there are no further questions, then I think it brings us to the end of today's meeting. So,
can I just ask, the presentation we received from Angela, are we looking to provide some direction for staff, or what do we want to do about that now that we've heard that information? And I guess the challenge has been put in front of us, or don't know, I'm not sure.
Do we want to be involved? Where's our line of involvement, I suppose, is the starting point of that.
Yeah, and how does it fit with our work program? Yeah, well, I'm always cautioned by the CEO of making decisions without information or reports. So maybe something in that sense.
I guess we could, if we felt it was an important topic that we would like, we could instruct staff to provide some guidance around that, how that might look, and then that gives us a decision-making capacity. You know, I haven't in my mind got a defined or defined clarity of what that might be, but yeah, I don't know. I'm quite keen to just canvass that from others as to if we gave instruction, what would that instruction be?
Yes,
That's my challenge in my head.
Yeah, I still don't know what they're trying to achieve. Watched a lot of these in the past. Lots of big words and.
Maybe it's us, you know, just checking to see what Waimaka area we're there, and perhaps if we could provide feedback on that. I don't know. Maybe
You know, I'm checking to see what.
Yeah.
I mean, Angela indicated that Waimaka really had given some instruction to officers to bring back a report. So I think that would be a good starting point for us, because there's no need for us to reinvent the wheel if, you know, if they have a plan. Because as she mentioned, it would be very, very important for us to work in a collaborative.
Well, it's more Canterbury, isn't it? Enterprise that.
I
think we did mention.
Yeah, that's right.
My understanding was that she's trying to get food sources back into the ground locally that can feed, like in the old days, Marshall's Roads in Christchurch, literally feed Canterbury, Christchurch. Coe used to feed Auckland, prior that was down by the and I think that is a very broad stroke statement, but I think that's kind of what I think she's aiming at, is how do we get our local producers to even engage in the idea of producing, and how do we establish, or where do we establish a market, and what can the council do to assist that? That's what I got out of it.
To be an influencer.
Only an influencer,
yeah.
That's the problem I had.
How
is the market is pushed out of Marshall's Road, pushed out to Tomato Road, and
got pushed out because land change was given through under the Treaty of Waitangi arrangements and convenience.
Tomato Road, I absolutely do know it got pushed out because the supermarkets got brokers. I farmed amongst the market gardeners, and they ended up getting their produce out of larger. Instead of 10 acres, they go to 50-acre plots. We were there. It's like the guy in Amberley with all his cauliflowers down here. It's not
the Conway River. It's all lettuces. Yeah, I know.
So it's the market is determined, and the people going to the supermarket and going to it, they'll determine what. And I'm sad that Tomato Road is like all my friends there supply the.
They got screwed.
They now supply, instead of tenants and growers, supply flea markets.
I'm just going to defer across to Hamish. Perhaps got some insight for us.
Look, council was already involved in a number of areas of food security. For example, with our vegetables, with community gardens, etc. So I wonder where it'd be useful to do a stock take of those areas that we're involved in, so you can see our current level of involvement and decide whether you want to get more involved or not, and what resources you're prepared to put into that.
Because I do know that within those slides that we received prior to the meeting, and I don't know if you can see this one here, the councils across Aotearoa. And I mean, that looks at councils that have got policies, councils that have got strategies, councils that have got programs, councils that have got partnerships. So I think, that stock take then might allow us to see clearly, perhaps consider what Waimakariri's position might be and what ENC's position might be, and then, where does it go from there?
Angela's running a business that charges for the privilege. She is running a business. And I see where empathy is. I'm reading through my notes. I keep coming back, one little word keeps coming back, and David said it himself, and that is that the market will establish itself if it's proven. And I just keep noting that I don't see us putting money into this when we're struggling. If we go back through those others that you looked at and spreads around New Zealand, some of those communities are looking at high rate increases this year. They're looking at that side of things as well. So when I see someone come into our room here and ask for stuff, straight away the dollar sign, the Q estimate goes straight back to the cost spreadsheet and go, okay, is there any wiggle room in that for us to be involved, other than giving moral and a bit of support through our social and our networking, and how would that cost us on a daily? I don't think it's wise to get into bed with this. I think it'd be ideal to support it, but we have to look at our costs involved. And realistically, Angela drives a fairly solid online presence. She's been doing it for some time. She was in tight with all the Omahi people for a long time up there when I had Bycroft Organic Meats. I was around a lot of these people at the time. And David's got a point, the market is limited, it doesn't grow out. I just wonder if we are wasting resources. I'm just putting it out there, I could be very wrong, but I'm just asking that question.
I don't know that our resources have to be financially.
But that's how I think. I make no apology for it. It's just, and I think it's really helpful to have someone in the room who always goes back to that, because it is at the end of the day how our ratepayers will address us later in the day. And I agree the supports are available for us to give them, but they need to promote, create support, develop their own growth, and solidify spots within the townships that are going to give it some heed. That's what I noted in my notes, listening to what she said. And that's where I think that the supporters, you've said, go back and we'll do it, as the CEO's mentioned, we do a stock check on what we do have and decide whether or not we can go forward. Now, would we lose resources on it? Remembering there's private equity out there doing these jobs already. There's people, what's the wonky vegetables and wonky boxing, or et cetera, et cetera. There's guys down at Leaston who bought all my equipment off me when I shut my all my mulches and my drills and all that. They took all them off. They went down to Leaston. They're doing it down there at a commercial level. There's a lot of people doing what you're saying at a commercial level. And I just think we need to be careful we don't get tied up wasting our resources to prop up something. That's my only concern. Well, it's not my only one, but it's. I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but I'm just suggesting.
I think there is an opportunity. And I guess you touched on it earlier, Chris. We have seen a growth in our food banks and such like, because we haven't got the ability, and I think Chris, you touched on it, we don't learn to grow carrots or plant spuds or do whatever and learn to eat in a seasonal manner, because the availability, and so I think there is a fundamental change there. And so whether we have an opportunity not to invest heavily but actually be influential in understanding the cycle of life, and there is a season to plant your spuds and harvest your spuds and teach our kids or the next generation to do what's right by food, So I think there is an opportunity there, and I guess I picked up, because we've had a growth in the demand of our food banks, how can we be a circuit breaker to be the change maker in that process? So not looking at a financial investment, but actually how could we be a voice in that change maker process, and that won't be seen tomorrow, but it might be seen in 10 or 20 or 30 years if we kind of take that circuit breaker approach. So yeah, I think there is a position for us to be influencers in that space. And I know, well, we all know, we've heard, the growth of the demand of food in schools isn't because we haven't, it's because of a whole variety of reasons, So we don't turn away from the fact that we've got kids that have got hungry bellies, and so we provide that space. But actually, are we being an enabler to be the change cycle? Maybe not, And I remember a quote at the time of the Waio Kaikoura earthquake, when we got hugely invested by gift giving, from food to nappies to, you know, but actually one of the support workers that came from North Island somewhere, he said what we actually have to teach this community now, the community of Waio, to be dependent, not actually to be independent, not dependent. And I think that phrase has kind of sit with me, and it sort of sits with me in this discussion today. How can we be the circuit breaker and the change maker? And is that our role? Not sure. Is it a chance for wholesome education across a whole lot of domains? Probably. But how can we be, you know, part of that circuit breakers in society? So it probably hasn't answered any of your questions, but it's just kind of where it sat with me.
Yeah, and I think that the two key things there are break the circuit and be influential, but that retention of independence. It's enabling people to take steps that they need to. So that idea of perhaps doing a stock take, and then we find out where one up really is. I think it'd be really good for everybody in this room to get that vision that came from the people in our community at that hui, at the bowling club, because actually that will give you true insight into what our people think and what they've got to offer. So I think, can we, is that enough direction?
Well, I'll step in on that, because that's you're down here, up where I live, it's a different vibe where Chris lives, it's going to be a totally different vibe where Vincent. I think we need to probably go and walk in our community a wee bit and have a proper look and ask some questions as councillors.
Yeah, and so part of that stock take would be that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's probably important. Chris probably is unaware that the members of our community were actually at that hui that Pauline's talking about.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't just, it wasn't actually South Coast.
It wasn't just Amberley, it was a criminally based thing.
So I just think that's got more of a district wide presence.
Is there enough direction, Judith, just to, sorry. Okay.
No.
So I can see Vince has got his hand up, but I'm just aware that we potentially need to close the meeting, but we've got some direction on where we might go with that. And I think that's really good, given that we did receive that quite powerful deputation. Okay, so with that, I'm going to close the meeting at 12:25.